Am I unmuted?
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. Hi, ladies. First of all, thanks for this. I think it's obviously these conversations continue to be important, and I'm grateful to be a part of this one. To share common experiences and also just discuss how to navigate this. For me, I first wanted to start by just unique perspective, I think, because for me, in my experience in practice, and it's something I realize in a reflective kind of state, is I benefited a bit from colorism, I think I would call it, because I'm albino. And so I was in practice. And I think, and what I mean by that is because practically on a day-to-day, I think they forgot I was Black.
We lost her.
Hi, is everyone back?
Unmute.
Take myself. Is
now,
it fine now?
Please unmute.
My mute is off.
Yes, okay.
Okay, I don't know when I got lost. But what I was trying to explain was that was my experience. It was colorism in that sense that I benefited in a way because they forgot I was Black because of the color of my skin, because I'm albino, until I started reminding them in other ways that I was Black, which means starting to speak out about kind of issues and racism and kind of favoritism and bias that was happening in the law firm. And so for me, I think maybe when we look at how we solve this or how we start to break this down, it's also about us trying to actually identify the intricacies within this problem. Because I think there are, I mean, we've also spoken about allyship, and I know there's the issue of people who pose themselves as allies, even women of color, but who then turn around and act in ways that are not supporting of allyship. I had experienced that as well. And so maybe if we think of those practical day-to-day things, and how and all those intricacies of what the experience is in terms of racism and the lack of transformation, and start to kind of pinpoint how those specific things contribute to the bigger experience, we might come up with different solutions. Because I think what tends to happen for us is we look at this thing as a whole and our experience as a whole, and we want to have this big solution for this big experience. And I think, you know, it's a hard problem to solve. So I don't know if it's about having conversations about getting to the nitty-gritties of specific things that we can then try to find smaller solutions to address the bigger problem. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm done.
Thank you, Nell. Would anyone like to add on to what Nell has said? If no one wants to add anything, then Mbali, please share your comment with us. Please remember to unmute. Mbali, are you here? Okay, Sia, you can continue.
Oh, sorry. Hi. Sorry, I was trying to find the unmute button. I'm so sorry.
All right.
Hi, everyone. Yes, apologies for that. My line is a bit shaky. I just have a quick question. So I'm currently a first-year Kant attorney at one of the firms in Pretoria, right? And going into that firm at first, I wanted to be in a place where I am seen as a young Black woman, in a place where I feel like I could thrive, right? And the moment I got there, it was just the complete opposite. It was very, I mean, on the outside, it seems very Black, but as soon as you're in, it's very Afrikaans, right? And what I really just want to ask, and I heard some of the things that you guys were saying, which it was great and things. I just want to know, like, how can one still being in that environment, and especially in my position, the first year CA, how can one like challenge or stand up for themselves where it is very difficult in the sense that if I do stand up for myself, I run the risk of maybe being not retained, one, or being kept in the same department where I feel like there's no growth, which I feel like is something that's... Pardon? Oh, sorry. Something that's happened right now. And then secondly, I just also wanted to ask, like, how does one deal with the situation where we recently were allocated our rotations list, and it feels as if now the Black first-year CAs have been kept in the same rotation, being the general litigation rotation, where we're doing the manual work, the court work, the redundant work, and people of other races are moved to your corporate departments or your labor departments, where you get to think and actually engage with the work. So I don't know how one would approach that, because I want to be a well-rounded lawyer at the end of this. And being kept in a department where you mainly do RAF work, and you don't know if the RAF is going to still be open in a few years' time, it just feels like I'm being run towards a brick wall, and it's just futile. So yeah, thank you so much.
I'm Bali. I would actually like to answer that. We're all from practice, I think, most of us, and we were all faced with the same situation. I was also not rotated until I know that somebody raised this earlier, saying that you can't always speak up. You have to choose your battles in a law firm because you're trying to keep your job. And that's how they victimize you, you know. You start speaking up and they're like the loud one, Bali starts getting known and being victimized. But honestly, you closed mouth don't get fed in the law firm. They really don't.
True.
You have to speak, you have to even network with other associates and other departments. You have to decide where you're trying to get your career to be, what kind of work you want to do, and network with those people in the firm. And speak up if you don't want to be in the litigation department for 2 years of your articles, which you shouldn't be. Speak up. There's HR, there's other partners, there's your boss. You have to speak up with regards to rotation in particular.
Yeah, I agree.
There is no other way of moving into another department. Otherwise, you will finish your articles just filing and serving.
I agree with Kulufelo, definitely. And also another thing is there is actually strength in numbers. If you as Mbali feel that you can't take on your boss, then find other Black people who are battling the same problem and then target it as, you know, approach it or confront it as a collective. There generally is strength in numbers, and it will be very difficult for a law firm, you know, to try to work out 6 Blacks who are unhappy about the exact same thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It's not, to be honest, Siadimo, it's not difficult for them to work out 10 Blacks at a time. It's not. There's been many Blacks who've been worked out all around at the same time. In fact, the strength in numbers is actually a weakness in a law firm, because that's when they target they used to call us the Tea Party, the Black corner. So you really have to be, you have to have a tunnel vision, and you basically have to look out for yourself. It's, as terrible as that sounds, the strength in numbers will work anywhere else, maybe not in practice though. Because they do work the whole lot out. The worst people to work for are lawyers. They will make your employment contract 50 pages long and tight. So you just have to be goal oriented and go for what you want, be tunnel vision, and tell them this is where you're trying to be. You're not trying to disrespect anyone, but this is where you want to be. As an associate, you want to be groomed in this department. You cannot stay in litigation when you actually are a corp-com lawyer.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Cool.
Then there's a Peel in the chat says not a question but a topic for another session. Tando's earlier statement about having to do pupillage without earning a salary and just reflecting on how that serves as a huge disadvantage to a Black child who has aspirations of joining the bar has really triggered my thoughts on transformation in the bar and briefing patterns from law firms. I think this is the biggest elephant in the room in the legal space, more especially for young Black women in the bar and those who have aspirations to even consider joining the bar. Sure. Is anyone
Yeah,
able to comment on briefing patterns? I've really only heard so much about this. The best is there an advocate here or somebody who's looking to pursue a career in that direction?
Hi, so I'm a pupil advocate doing my pupillage at the Pan-African Bar Association of South Africa. And I'm very fortunate in that, you know, the Pan-African Bar, PABASA, also known as PABASA, was created to do away with racism, to do away with sexism. So it's a very unapologetically pro-Black, unapologetically feminist, equitable space. And, you know, when you listen to one of the co-founders, Ubab Muzisi Kakane, speaking about it, he co-founded the space precisely because women are not being briefed. I'm not sure if the people on the call know, I know Siadimo mentioned 17% in the profession, but in my profession, in advocacy, there's only 4% Black women. And when I say Black, I mean Black African. I mean people who identify as colored,
Yeah.
and people who are of Indian descent.
So that's a small number for such a large group.
It's
Small,
tiny.
it's just nothing.
It's tiny.
Because it caters to a very large group.
Yes, and there's other things that happen that I think we haven't really unpacked, you know. So I want to, before I get to answering that question, I actually want to extend to a word that Tibelo used that I think needs to be clarified, you know, before we can really unpack. I mean, I really make a way forward, is that gender-based violence is actually the heir or the daughter of white-hetero-patriarchy. And a lot of people think that gender-based violence is about violence or like a verbalized violence, so to speak. No. Gender-based violence is any kind of discrimination based on your sex, your gender, and your sexual orientation. So sex referring to the biological status of you either being male, female, or intersex. And it's also been, you know, there's research that suggests that there are even more sexes, but we kind of cap it at that because of our obsession with binaries. And then in terms of gender, it's how you as a human being identify in relation to other human beings. So you can be born a male, but identify as being a woman, which would then make you a trans woman. And then sexual orientation refers to the biological attraction that you have to other human beings. So you can either be heterosexual, homosexual, bisexual, pansexual, and there's a whole long spectrum of different sexualities, genders, and sexes. And the way in which it manifests itself is in unequal pay. A lot of people don't know that unequal pay is gender-based violence, especially if it's based on the premise that you're a woman, and especially if it's based on the premise that you're a Black woman. Because historically, and this is why Black women are not briefed a lot in the profession. Historically, Black women's bodies have been used and exploited by the economy. So what used to happen from an historical perspective is that in order to keep, you know, racism functional, Black women were then kept as, you know, relegated to rural spaces. They made sure that they pushed Black women into, you know, feminized workspaces, and culture and religion was then used to further oppress Black women. You know, so what they would do is that they would force a Black woman would work because whiteness and apartheid understood that we needed Black labor. But in order for us to get the most amount of profit, we needed to get labor for as little money as possible. So that's kind of the patterns that you see in the economy at large in South Africa. Black women participate only in the informal economy mostly, and barely see us in the formal economy, and barely see us in the most powerful stratas of the economy, being spaces like law, etc. So with briefing patterns, and Ubab Muzi was very, very candid when he told us. He said that you will find that you're not going to get briefed. And even us, when we talk to our mentors who are Black women, it's like, yo, unzima, guys. And on top of that, you also have to have looks from men, you know. So men might not say that they want to have sex with you, but they will give you a look that seeks to undress you. So even when you do get opportunities, just like one of the other colleagues had mentioned, there's a lot levied against you to make you feel uncomfortable, so you never enter into the space ever again. And I think we need to also be aware of the fact that there is a very specific form of gender-based violence which only Black women can be able to relate to. And Sadimo mentioned the fact that at some point we diverge, because a white woman doesn't know what it is to go use a toilet outside and get raped there, for example. A white woman doesn't know what it is like to have to walk home to use public transportation and then land up at a bus stop that doesn't have a light, as you come back from work, even as you're practicing as an attorney. And those are things that I have to go through because I'm training and classes are at night, guys. And then I have to ask my father to go to Gandhi Square to fetch me from there. Because if I am caught walking in town, going back home at that time of the night, then best believe that something is going to happen to me. So it's important for us to understand how gender-based violence manifests itself in different ways in the system. The fact that you have a class in Sugu, like, how can you have a class of Sugu at like weird hours that don't consider the fact that my body is already vulnerable, but who cares? You should have a car. When we're already, excluded from the economy and we're forced to be married to be able to keep up with being, with practicing. But anyway, going back to the brief situation, if you're a Black woman, you will hardly get briefed. If you succeed in the profession as an advocate, listen, like, it's a really big deal. If you're a Black woman who succeeds, it doesn't matter how intelligent you are. Nami, I was doing very well. It doesn't matter. You are hardly going to get briefed just because you're Black and especially because you're a woman.
Sure. Little Ronolo had her hand up. Yo, Tando, I'm coming to your annual lecture. You are dropping some gems. I'm coming to your annual lecture. Little Ronolo.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Lethogonolo Ntodi, and I'm in my penultimate year of study at Wits University. I just have a question in terms of just transforming the corporate world, but only from like grassroots level as to like interviewing. So I had an experience where I was being interviewed by a Black panel, and to describe myself, I'm a bald-headed girl. So I have chiskop, and I was asked by a Black female whether or not I believed that I could fit into corporate culture, because from the way I look very radical. So I'm bald-headed, I usually have red lipstick on, and I'm quite petite. So I'm asking whether we have to acclimatize to whiteness. That is, I'll project from her image. She had a weave on and eyelashes on, and here I am with my bald head. So when is this concern going to end, that when we want to work somewhere, we have to look like a certain sort of acclimatization to whiteness to not be regarded as radical? And for that to be coming from a Black woman, it was very dissettling and very disconcerting that I had to explain myself for being bald, which is a personal choice. So does the transformation have to happen in the HR space? That's just the question that I have.
Sure. Thank you, Little Nolo. I will allow someone to comment on that, but I just want to throw in something quickly. Last year, when was it? Last year I took part in the Mrs. South Africa pageant, purely because I actually wanted to change the face of pageantry. I was like, I don't understand why it's always tall and skinny women, or the closest person to white who wins these competitions. But I'm going to show them that, you can actually partake in pageantry purely based on merit, as in purely based on intellect. And I remember at that time I had a mentor. I had two mentors within Mrs. South Africa. One was Black and one was white. And both of them one day said to me, "Oh my goodness, I had gone without a weave that day. And I had short blonde hair. I had dyed my hair blonde, and it was very, very similar to Letlawanolo's length in her picture. Very, very short blonde. And they were like, no weave. That is a complete pageant no-no, you know? And 2 days later, I stepped down. I was like, I cannot be using my platform to encourage women and young girls to be themselves. Meanwhile, I go into a pageant and stand for somebody telling me that my short blonde hair is a pageant no-no, you know? And then I remember being called to take down my picture of Pap and Mohodu. I had posted a picture of Papa and Mohodu. And the chick was like, if she had posted sushi, then it would very much align with what we're trying to create.
Wow.
And I remember I was ko Harankua, and I posted my picture with Sam and Mohodu and Chakalaka and all this. And for me, those two comments took place in the same week. And I immediately made the decision that there's no ways I'm always going to advocate for young girls to be themselves unapologetically and stay in a pageant that's telling me that I have to post sushi, and that's telling me that short hair is an absolute pageant no-no. And I understand that in the workplace, it's very, very difficult for you to step down from, being a candidate attorney because somebody said you have to have a weave on. But I was very fortunate to be able to leave a platform like that because it didn't align with the message that I send out.
Yeah.
Just to add to what Tebelo was saying, I also had a similar experience where when I was being interviewed, I came in a weave, and then when I started the job, I was in braids. And I remember the first week of orientation, somebody said, the weave makes you look soft and the braids make you look like you're going to a fight. It was they joked about it, and it was an all-white team. They were all laughing, and I was like, I giggled a little bit, but I was uncomfortable the whole day. I was like, I am so ashamed that I even showed my teeth that day. Like, why did I laugh? It's not funny. It's not. But and then from then on, but I noticed something. It's this goes across the board with regards to when you're feeling low and down and victimized by these forces. They pick up on that, and they go for blood. They know you're feeling bad, you're feeling like you're victimized, you're feeling neglected, nobody's developing your skills, nobody's nurturing you, nobody's mentoring you in the firm. They can see that, and that's how you get, eventually you resign. They're not going to tell you to they're not going to fire you. They're going to get you to resign. So from that experience, once I left the firm, I started doing interviews in my afro. Sometimes I'd sleek it back. But I made sure, I'm like, I have an interview, I have to undo this. They must see what they're getting themselves into. This is who I am. And now even at my current job, whenever I come in my wig, they're like, what? Who are you? Like, we want the fighter. But you basically have to own your look. Yeah. Your interview should define wherever you're there for the work. And when you start speaking, your experience and whatever you bring to the table, the value that you bring will speak for itself. Nobody focuses on your looks if you don't focus on them.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I just wanted to add that more times than not, you say you're going to involve HR. HR is the custodian of whatever racist thing is going on at the time. So really you are in charge of your image and driving what you want to look like. Honestly, guys, I've just had too many bad experiences with HR. And I have my own hair story because I cut my hair as well in 2018. I remember very well. And I was told that this short hair makes me look sort of cheeky and like a bitch, whatever that means. And I'm like, but I'm a senior associate, my work. What does me looking like a bitch have anything to do with the quality of work that I'm producing? It's got nothing at all to do with it. And I made the choice as well then to be like, you know what, I'm not going to be dictated to be told to put on a weave. I was also told to update, the little profile picture with the company to a picture that had a weave on. And I was like, no, stuff that. That's actually not what I look like in my natural state. And yeah, how is it so many years down the line, you're not looking at the quality of my work, I'm being judged on my looks. So really that is on you, I think, as Kulu said, to push back and to fight back on that. No one's going to do that for you.
Yeah, I
But
think
you know
a lot
what?
of this also really attaches to ignorance. Like, white people are ignorant. Are you telling me that when white people change the color of their hair, they are still able to identify with each other? With us, when we've got braids versus when we've got a wig on, it's like, oh my gosh, did you cut your hair? No, you're ignorant.
But you know what, Tebelo and Khulupela, you said something that I think is like really important. So I think, Tebelo, you and I are kindred spirits because we both entered into pageant space, right? So I actually entered Miss South Africa earlier on this year. And I didn't do it to be a beauty queen. I did it because I'm a feminist and I wanted to disrupt a patriarchal space. So even when I wrote my letter, I said that it can't be that we have a woman who's attempting to lead, such a vulnerable group of human beings in the most unequal society in the world. And yet I can't remember this person transforming our society. Like, there's literally no one who comes from a pageant who has transformed our society that I can speak of. And, I challenge Zozibini to say that it's not enough for us to take up space. We need to lead spaces, own spaces, as well as, if necessary, create the spaces using, the appropriate ideology. So what I want to say then from that is to say we need more women and we need more Black women to be conscientized, and we need you to remain resolute about the fact that you're not going to allow yourself to be oppressed. So for example, if maybe like for fees, if you feel like, no, but this is unfair, the fees that's being negotiated here, I feel like I'm being, treated unfairly, then that's something that needs to be brought up. Don't take that just because you want to put food on the table. And it's a hard thing to do, but we do need to do it, because if you accept, reduced fee, unreasonably reduced fees, if you accept people telling you to go and change your hair, if you accept everything that is a part of the machinery of white heteropatriarchy, then I can assure you that it's going to continue. So you need to lay your body on the line, literally, in order to transform. And the sad thing is that you're going to find that there are people who look like you who are going to betray you. And so that's going to make you feel like, oh, like, why then do I need to fight for people that look like me? But you can't do that. If you really want to see transformation, it means laying your body on the line. I mean, for instance, Black men, have you ever seen Black men marching for Black women? Marching and saying, sikhathele to see like the poor legal protection of domestic workers in South Africa. Sikhathele to see Black women being the least paid in South Africa. And yet 3 Black women started the Black Lives Matter movement specifically for Black men, specifically for young Black men living in America who are being murdered by the state agents. So you need to understand that you're on your own. You're not going to have Black men marching for you and your hair and your existence. So, and I love the fact that we can create these spaces because we can conscientize one another. And Tebelo, that also lends to, why I created Ubuntu Studies. I understand that when Steve Biko died, even though Steve Biko's language is quite male-centric, I'm gonna put that aside. But Steve Biko died before his time. And it is my responsibility now as an educated Black person to say, how do we liberate ourselves as Black women? I mean, as Black people? And that we can only liberate ourselves if we center our liberation, in the direction of Black women, because Black women are the most oppressed human beings in society. And we are the most oppressed because the system that was created to oppress us understood that the future of Blackness is in the womb of every single Black woman alive, And so, Ubuntu Studies is for that conscientization. We have to have spaces like this one, but we also have to have educational material circulating amongst ourselves so that we can also learn the vocabulary that can make us understand and identify when we're being oppressed. Because you can feel uncomfortable about something, but there's something uncomfortable about a room of people who are okay with laughing at me for XYZ reason.
Yeah.
And until you understand that actually by definition, that's a microaggression. Even someone maybe at work assuming uthi ushadile, or when are you gonna get married? Or ukuthi sishelwe emsebenzini nje siyashelwa thina. That's the only function of a black woman at work, is that we are here to be someone's potential girlfriend or wife. No, we are not. We're our own human beings. We're here to succeed. We're here to create our own legacies, and not only legacies for children, legacies for humanity. You might not ever have children, for that matter. So it's important for us to be conscientized, and for us to concretize spaces like this, but also for us to be reading and learning material that can help us to understand the system of oppression and how to dismantle it effectively and sustainably.
Sure. Thank you so much, Tando, for that. We have 8 minutes left before it cuts us. I'm not going to invite us to rejoin a link. It is late. Lightness, Simpiwe, and Chibedi, you each have 1.5 minutes to make your comment. Can we please start with Lightness, then Simpiwe, and then Chibedi or Tibedi will close off for us. 1.5 minutes, guys.
Hello, my name is Lightness.
Yes.
Different from others, I'm from Tanzania. I'm an advocate in Tanzania. I got interested to listen to this conversation because it seems like the same defect that happens to other countries happens to Tanzania also. But I have a little bit comment on some few stuff. I think this problem is from our own ideology. As one of the speakers said, we kill ourselves out of our own ideology on the concept that I'm Black, so I can't make it. And this thing happens to many young uprising advocates because of what they hear from the experienced one, that when you're out there and you're Black, then you're out of the system. But in real sense, we can change our ideology and accept the fact that we can make it despite the race discrimination that still exists. Creating our own space, especially in corporate advocates, creating our own space does not solve all the problem, because out of that, you need to meet with clients that still have a white ideology in it. That when they meet a Black woman, they can't work with her because they don't expect a lot out of her. But in real sense, the way we fight our battles and the way we handle that ideology that we can make it can help us at least reduce the gap that is already existing. It's an already existing deep, very deep gap, but we have to take a step-by-step narrowing it. I created my own brand due to the same defects that I had. I was employed in a law firm, but due to gender discrimination, I had to step out and create my own space. But I realized by creating my own space, I still had to deal with that from clients. Because you go to a client and pitch something and they're like, you're Black.
Yeah.
So what do you bring on the table?
Yeah.
So what I did is I pushed it to the highest level by performing the best, but not in the same client. The other white client who has tried, who gave it a chance that let me go with this Black woman and let's see what happens. When I did the best and I headed his thing to the highest performance, the other white guy who said no to a Black woman definitely started finding me. Like, I need you to handle my stuff. So the way you handle your battles will help you narrow the ideology. In some way, that's what I've been experiencing so far. Out of that, about maintaining your personality as a Black woman, especially advocate. You don't have to change you, but you have to make people accept you. These are two different things. changing you by the fact that you accept them to continue suppressing you. When you accept their critics of changing yourself, you create a room for them thinking that they can really win you out. But when you tell them that despite you're criticizing me, but I can still maintain it the same as it is, it creates a little bit shame to them, so they can't press it that much as they did at the first time. So I think we should first, whoever were superiors to other young advocates, we should remove the ideology out of them. That when you're out there and you're black, then you're gone. No, we should start by killing it within. That we're experienced, but they're not experienced. But hey, there's this, but you can cure it. There's this, but you can face it in this way. Instead of telling them that, when you go outside there, you're gone as long as you're black.
Yeah.
So we kill ideology internally so that we're able to increase the room for us to fight that battle, not on personal level, but also to whoever is coming in the field to understand that it's a battle that can be fought, and it's a battle that it starts within. If you don't allow them to go deep with you when it comes to their critics, then you're able to cure as every stage goes by. So I think our ideology can be the best ground, the best starting ground for us to cure whatever gap that exists. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lightness. It was actually, I really couldn't cut you shorter because it was very exciting to hear from somebody who is, hours and hours across the continent, but having the same kind of battles and challenges that we're experiencing in South Africa. It just goes to show that a topic like this is global. It goes to show that there's a lot under the umbrella of Black Lives Matter. This is one of those global topics that affect us in the same manner, regardless of where we are situated in the world. I do know that Simpiwe and Chibedi have comments that they would like to make. We are running out of time. It says we have less than a minute, and it's also 8 p.m. We've been at it for 2 hours. So what I'm going to do is definitely have the exact same round table during Women's Month. Someone has said that we should extend this topic into Women's Month and have empowering conversations as well during Women's Month. So I owe Simpiwe and Chibedi the platform to also speak. For now, I'm so sorry. It has to be good night to everybody. And thank you so much for joining this hopefully very impactful conversation.
It was a pleasure, and thanks to you for putting it together.
Bye. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night, guys. Bye.
Good night.
Good night.